Hello and good afternoon. You're very welcome to our next monthly webinar on always getting better with Enterprise. Wherever you are in the world, you're very welcome if this is your first time to join us. It's great to have you on board. And as always, we will dive deeply into the latest release and what has come through this week and landed on Monday in the June release. So without further ado, let me just bring you in and remind you of the key features that have become available for you to start using today. And more importantly, why you should start using them, the benefits of those new features, and how you can get up and running as soon as possible. So let me just quickly start by sharing my screen and we'll just remind you of what those key features are. And as always, this webinar is fully recorded and will be shared with you it'll be available probably tomorrow morning and you'll be able to access that again from our website. So Horatio landed on Monday morning, another one of our seamless upgrades that came into the system on Monday morning. So when you landed and logged in for the first time, whatever time of the day that was on Monday, all of the new features had already been released. So without any interruption, more importantly, and without any downtime for your organization. What we try and do, as always, with every single release is, from the submission forums, from the roadmap requests that a lot of the information that we have released has been guided by you, been guided by your requirements for your business and what you need to have within the system. And obviously that's an incredible asset to us as well, to see all the key wonderful features that can really drive the product forward, but more importantly for you as an organization, can help you grow more within your organization, but more importantly within your business. So starting off with one of the first primary features that we released, you would have seen an email, of course, with today's invitation to the webinar, and it would have listed off a number of different features. I will focus on three key features primarily here, but of course I'll remind you of all the features that have been released. So starting off here with the transaction line quick entry. So the whole idea behind this was to give you, or I suppose in some regards, reduce the transaction processing time. So basically more speed, less effort to process your item transactions. So ultimately what you can do simply is populate your transaction with an item code. It will default to a quantity of 1. And of course, if you have a priceless price for that customer, it will automatically show on screen and you hit the enter key and the item line is populated. So ultimately the benefits are huge in terms of processing time alone itself, just that speed of entry, that you can quickly just enter all those item codes that you know off the top of your head and have them populated seamlessly and quickly on screen. So it does allow you to minimize delays during data entry. Obviously improving your own efficiency as a data enter. So as you enter that data, your processing time is going to increase. So at least, or reduce, I should say, and at least then you can focus on more key processes within the organization. And of course, it supports high volume transaction processing, as you know, whether you're doing that manually through the manual entry on the quick entry screen itself, or if you need to paste in or bulk import lines directly into your transaction. You can very easily switch between the advanced entry and the quick entry when needed. So it will default to the quick entry, but you can simply switch it back to the advanced, which is what you've been used to using to date. But I guarantee you that if quick entry is something that you've been waiting for, you are really going to love this, because it really does make a huge difference in the time it takes to process those transactions. And of course, we haven't forgotten about some of those other advanced items that you may have set up as well, such as items that might require additional volumes, for example, any of your three-dimensional items, any of the square unit items or service call items. So what will happen is that if you automatically type in an item code that is an advanced item, such as what I've mentioned, it will automatically launch the Wyze panel for you, so that if you have to populate dimensions, weight, width, length, etc., that you can just do those automatically within the Wyze panel on the pop-up on the side of the screen. So you're not losing out of that information when populating during the quick entry as well. So lots of great value add into utilizing the quick entry function. And I think, as I say, there's people out there who know all those item codes offhand, off by heart, and are just dying to get going with just populating in the codes, returning down on the lines and letting it populate away. So we'll take a look at that, of course, in a live demonstration in a few moments, and you'll see how easy it is actually to do this. Next up, we have sales forecasts. So I think this is going to be a game changer for anybody out there that really needs to know and plan ahead on the basis of what they're going to do in regards to selling of stock and volumes of stock, and of course, what volumes of stock customers are going to be buying into the future, and to understand the whole, basically the whole optimizing all your inventory levels, I guess, to guide you with the planning as well for future sales that are yet to come within the platform. So again, this was a super idea from one of our customers who really needed to plan ahead, because again, for high planning stock, where stock just needs to be ordered in advance, but they also need to know in advance what the customer is going to be selling or what they're going to be ordering from them months ahead. They needed to ensure that they had a way of safely recording what those forecasted quantities were, and of course being able to then compare that against what was actually ordered versus what was actually invoiced. On top of that, what we will do over the next couple of months, we will also give an added benefit to that as well, to record the budget revenue. So that'll be another comparison that you'll be able to place against the sales forecast itself. So again, this is all around your demand for the stock. What do you need to have in place? What items need to be procured in advance or produced in advance if you're using production, for example, and manufacturing? What needs to be in stock, ready to be planned, ready to be reordered, to ensure that delivery for those customers over the coming months happens as and when it is required. So using the forecasting on the sales lets you track that information and lets you then compare it against the actual invoiced or the actual, outstanding orders that are within the system. So all the benefits, as I can say, all around inventory levels, being able to plan and reduce overstock, and of course to negate any shortages as well, or any shortages that you might potentially come into with a particular product range, for example. And maybe there are times of the year where that is in particular a potential threat. Maybe perhaps you're getting components in from abroad and you need to make sure that you have those well in advance to ensure that the delivery to customers can be done on time, knowing that the orders are coming through in the coming months, for example. So it just increases that, better informed decisions around procurement, and of course around production decisions that you need to make on the fly. And of course, enhancing overall customer service, because with the customer, you're saying, well, look, you've agreed over the next 6 months, you're going to order 10 of that particular product line from us every month, and we will guarantee that you will have that by the end of each month, for example, based on the demand that you have for that customer. And of course, overall, it'll give better business decisions around the data to align your sales with your purchasing, and of course, any other inventory strategies that you have in place within the organization. So as you can see there, what we've done is in the CRM menu itself, we simply introduced a whole new forecasting menu. And within that, currently there are 2 options, one for forecast quantities, which is where you come in, you decide on the date range, you create a new forecast against a customer, and then you assign the items to that customer. And all you're doing there is specifying, in the example I have there on screen, for the 12 months of the year, the potential forecasted sales quantity to that customer. And the forecast report then will combine all that information, and it will show you the forecasted quantity as well as the value. So the value is based on the price list price that you've allocated to your customer. So whatever the price list price is that you've allocated to the customer, that's the price the forecast to be based on, and you'll get the value and the quantity for the forecast but you'll also see that versus outstanding orders if they're within that particular month, and of course what has actually been invoiced as well to date. And of course, once 12 months has exceeded, you will also start to get then, of course, versus last year's figures, so that you have another comparison over last year's sales, and again, that you can foresee potentially what forecasts could look like into the current year or into the future as well for your customers. So I think it's another great value add that will, as the tagline says, will help you plan smarter and of course sell better overall as well. So I think a great one to have. So again, we'll look at that in the live demonstration, and I will show you how you can very simply enable that option and switch it on for the organization, but also show you how you can also control that as well at user level. And next up, for all our financial kings and queens out there, we have multi-currency aged reporting. So this has been a long time coming, I'm sure, and everybody is delighted to see this in terms of any of the financial teams within your organizations. So very simply, what we've done is within one view, so this is all within your existing aged receivables and your aged payables report, you will be able to switch the report to run by the BP currency. And the BP currency is simply the business partner or the customer or the supplier currency. So you can run it for individual currencies or just run it overall for all currencies. But if you do it for an individual and then filter further within the report itself, you will also get a total aged debt in that particular customer's currency, which is the example I have here on screen. And of course, the values are endless. The benefits and value to running an aged report in multi-currency are endless, because in terms of cash flow visibility and being able to understand exposure with through currency gains and losses, and being able to understand what potential pitfalls with currencies at the end of the month, particularly as a customer might have, be quite late in paying an outstanding invoice, what that will mean for you in terms of foreign exchange risk exposure as well. But it does give you better enhanced financial accuracy, because not only are you seeing it in your local currency, and if that's euro, for example, that you also isolate that to see it in the individual multi-currencies for the selection of customers or suppliers. So it does obviously help with credit control decisions and strengthening those calls that you make in relation to getting payments from your customers, and obviously making payments then to your suppliers. So one that's certainly been waiting in the wings quite some time, but we have it here now. And as you know, for the last few months, we have been making a lot of changes around reporting, and particularly around the accounting reports. So always looking to improve and make more improvements. And again, another great value add and another great ask from lots of different customers. So bringing this wonderful enhancement to you again, as always. So let's just refer back to what else we have. So, and so much more, without going through them all in any great particular detail, but you can see here, for example, on our expenses, this is another thing around the financials. So what we've done here is we've made an improvement around expense billing. So where you have an expense that is billable, i.e. it's billable to the customer, and you want to recoup the costs from the actual customer. So maybe you've been sending an engineer on site, and they've been going out on site every month, and they're claiming mileage off you, but they're claiming other stuff off you as well. And you've potentially said to the customer, look, they're spending a lot more time out there than maybe we originally agreed. So we're going to look to take a percentage of the cost back. So you might want to make sure that that expense is billed on then to the customer. And as you know, when you're entering expense currently at the moment, there is a flag to say that it's customer billable. And we've kept all of that within the expense module. So now what we've done is we've made sure that where you've done that and you've brought it through and approved it for invoicing, so it's gone through now to a purchase invoice, we will also take that customer billable flag and display it on the purchase invoice. And you will also be able to see it on the invoice grid as well. So the purchase invoice grid. So you can capture it there directly and understand, for example, you can run a filtered report for the current month to see what expense invoices need to be billed on then to your customers to recoup costs. So I think another great value add. There on the sales, we have a few different things that we've brought in terms of UI. So on sales and purchases, if you're copying a delivery to a returns, you will get an option to create a new sales order or a new purchase order. So you will have the choice as to whether or not to create a brand new sales order or brand new purchase order on the back of copying your delivery to a return. If you say no, it stops there, closes the delivery, closes the return, and that's it. If not, it creates a brand new order, and then you can continue the sales or procurement journey again if that's what needs to happen. We've also got a nice one little UI that we've added into our sales transactions that you can now show the components from a BOM in a transaction. And it literally just is the component code and the quantity. They just basically show as a text line on the transaction lines. We can now include journal remarks on sales and purchase screens. They will be displayed when you view a sales or purchase transaction, and particularly those that are affected by a journal. So your delivery, your return, your invoice, your credit note, you will get to see the journal remarks. On CRM, we have another great big addition there where you can now define a list of lead names. Now, this can only be done by an administrator. So what you're doing there is you're saying that there are a predefined list of lead names and the users have to select from those. Now, they can bypass and type in their own lead name. So if that's something that you require, you can take a look at that on our blog and you can follow through to this story lane to see a full demonstration of that. Companies, we've just simply added the reconcile button to the actions menu on the supplier screen. So when you're in a supplier screen, click on actions, you can now get to the reconcile. And again, over on the right-hand side, so much more. I mean, take a look at the list there. There's lots to go through, even more additions to the accounting that I mentioned already, particularly UI around the chart of accounts when creating a parent account. Journals, we've added in the comments and the remarks for the internal and external, so now you can populate those there as well. We've got a quick date selector on the balance sheet. We've got a couple of additions there to WMS, and we've got a whole new UI on our POS, which is our own Enterpryze POS. And we've simply moved the add-ons and services menu that was on the left-hand side of the main menu is now up in settings, so just for admins to access. So lots of wonderful different things. And what we're going to do now is going to switch directly over to a live demonstration. Let's review and go through the transaction quick entry, the forecasts, and of course the accounting age reports. And let me show you where they are within the live system and how you can start using those right now. So bear with me there and I will just switch screens here for you now. And let me just share. There we go, and click on share. And here we have the Enterprise screen. Now to stop this from, I've actually had it open a while, I'm just going to log out, log back in again, and we will kick off the demonstration. Now, just let me just fill the screen there for you there, just to make it easier as well. So in the organization, simply to do a quick entry, as I've mentioned, this is very, very simple. Let's just go to a sales transaction. Let's kick off simply with a sales order. So into new order, and let's just select our customer, start with. And as I said, this is really going to benefit those that are familiar with all those item codes, that are so used to the data entry. They know all the codes off by heart. It doesn't matter if you don't know them either. Of course, you have the option to select the codes. So don't forget that that is something that you can do at any stage. So let me just show you down here at the bottom of the screen. So automatically it's defaulted to quick entry because that's what I've been using on the transaction screens. And very simply, I can start off by typing in my item code. So in fact, I happen to know a couple of codes. So let me just grab that first item code. And all I'm going to do there is I'm going to click on the code. So what I can do now, I haven't pressed anything else. You can see there the quantity will appear, defaults to 1, and the unit price you can see is the price list priced for that customer. If I don't want anything else to change, I simply hit return on the keyboard and that line will be returned down as an entry on my sales order. So as you can see there, that item line has been added here automatically, and I can continue on. So I can go to the next one, for example, and I can do exactly the same. I can hit return. Now, if I want to, for example, just very quickly, if I want to just change something, all I have to do is tab across. So again, I'm not using the mouse. Tab across. I can update the quantity, for example, and change that to 2. So let me just do that. Okay, so then we can update that then to 2 and then hit return, and it will return the line down for us as well. So let me quickly show you what will happen if we have an item that has, for example, an advanced requirement. So I have another item here, which actually happens to be a service call item. So I'm going to select that, and you can see there automatically the Wyze panel appears. So if I have something like a squared unit item, a 3-dimensional item, or in this case, a service call item, the Wyze panel will automatically appear, and I can very simply, for this one here, of course, I would be going into the advanced entry to specify, or just down the bottom here, to specify the number of activities, for example, if that's what I need to increase, to make sure that that's what populates correctly when I add this particular order. And it really is that simple. So that's all you're doing, populating the codes, hitting return, and it adds them directly to the document. Otherwise, then you can simply edit the lines, and it will go into the advanced entry screen that you're used to seeing as well, or you can switch back to advanced entry at any time. But save yourself with processing, and this will certainly speed up all the entries that you need on screen. Okay, so next up we have the forecast, the sales forecast. So I'm going to show you first and foremost, how do you enable it? So if we go in here then to settings, so this is for our admins, and into module settings, on our sales and CRM panel, which is this one here on the left, if you scroll down, you will see enable sales forecast, just highlighting it there for you. And below that, then you also have a forecast by option. And that is really just for display purposes. That's to do with when you're populating the forecast quantities. Are you seeing it by calendar month? Or if you have definitive posting periods for the current year, and your current year might be March to April. So don't forget that that's specific then to you as an organization. You can display that as posting period as opposed to calendar month, which will be January through to December. So whatever you require on the display is it's fine by the system. So we have that enabled. The next thing, of course, then is to make sure we have that switched on for the users. So very simply, you come in here to your user settings, you search for your user, and you edit the user permissions, and you will see then against the CRM, very simply, you can decide whether or not the user can see the sales forecast quantities, which is here, just to show you that there, or directly beneath it, the sales forecast report. So now that we have that taken care of, let's simply dive into the forecast itself, and very simply come in here to CRM. Now we have the new forecast menu. Click on the drop down. Start off here with the forecast quantities, because this is where you're going to define what those potential quantities that you're going to sell to those customers are going to be. So we start off here by clicking on the new button. So this is the new button here on the right hand side. You can then decide what the date ranges are going to look like. So we've got a quick date selector here. So are you looking to set them for the whole year? Is it only for this quarter? Maybe you just want to do it quarter by quarter. Whatever that you require this month, last month, last quarter. So you can see there just your quick date selectors. I'm obviously going to do this year just to make it easier to see it on screen. And now let's select a customer to sort this by. So let me just grab this customer here, for example. And then very simply what I can do is I can now start manually adding the items that are relevant. So I'm just going to take some items that I know I have a price list for example. So let me just grab this one here. Fantastic. And you can see there it populates the line with the item. The forecast price is in fact the price list price for that customer. So just to bear that in mind. And then you simply start by typing in the quantities, what you forecast to sell this customer each month for this particular item. It is as simple as that, just to populate that there for you. If manually adding the items, perhaps you've got thousands of items you need to forecast for a particular customer, we've got you covered there as well. We have a pacelines option. The pacelines option is something that we've already introduced, as you know, on your sales transactions, and we also have it on our journal entries that we introduced last month. So pacelines basically simply enables you to take the data directly from a spreadsheet, Control-C, and then Control-V, and directly populate it here on screen, and you get all the information instantly. So it's as simple as just having the item code and the quantity. As you can see there, quantity 1, quantity 2, but we've made it even simpler. We've actually got a template. So you can download the Excel template, populate it with the forecasts, and then simply come in here, click on the upload button, bring it in to see all the values, and populate it automatically on screen. So just to save you, again, more time saving on the data entry itself. Otherwise, if it's just that it's a few items for this particular customer, you can just continue on as is. Now, bear in mind, every item that you populate in here for a forecast has to have a price list price. And of course, you will get a return, you will get an error to say that if there's no price list price in existence. Again, let's just put another couple of items in. Just populate this one here, for example, and we will do exactly the same. And then we will save that. So what I can do here, perhaps this one, I can say that in fact we only sell to this customer every 2 months, and this is the forecasted sales quantity based on that. Okay, so that's all I'm doing there, just to make it look a little bit different. And let's just save that. So nice and simple. If I want to review or edit an existing forecast, again, that's nice and simple. So what you do here is you can click on the drop-down list for the customers. It will only show those customers with a forecast. So if I return this one here, you can see the list of items, all the different quantities that have been allocated for that item for the year. If, for example, I want to replicate this same collection for another customer, I can click on duplicate. I can export it to Excel. So if I want to keep a report of what the information is, and of course, as I said, you can edit those quantities as well. So what happens? We've been selling to this customer over a few months. So what happens next? How do we identify that the sales that we forecasted are actually making any dent on the actual revenue being collected from the customer? So we move on then to the forecast report here. So when we run the forecast report, and let's look at the same customer that we just had there, for example, and let me just click on the drop down. Again, you can specify the date range that you want to report on. So you have control over that as well. And again, we've got our quick date selector to give you those predefined dates, make it easier and faster. The top of the screen then simply just details, you can see here we've got a summary that tells us the forecast. The forecast, as you can see here, is in value. And the forecast is based on those quantities multiplied by the forecast price, which is your price list price. So that's what it's done. The forecasted amount is 5990, but I can see there currently outstanding orders, outstanding sales orders to the value of 2.5. Out of that, only 1,500 has been invoiced so far. So we've lots to make up in terms of revenue already for this particular customer. Perhaps, you know, we went a bit far with the forecast. Perhaps they were higher. Maybe the customer needs to redress what it is that they're doing in order to sell that product line on as well. So all of the above, it opens up lots of different questions. And of course, it makes you look at potentially, we don't want to have too many, we don't want to have stock outs. And of course, we don't want to end up with too much stock either that we haven't moved on and out of the system. So when we come further down then to analyze the products themselves, the product line, you can see there, for example, item 1, the third product line. So we can see there for each month, if you can read that there. So for each month, you've got a value and you've got a quantity. So it'll tell you for each month, the value and the quantity in the forecast. And then beneath that, it'll also tell you if there's any outstanding orders for that particular month, value and quantity, and what's been invoiced, value and quantity for that particular item. So already you're getting a clear picture of potentially what the actual sales are versus what the forecasted sales you hoped to be with this particular customer. And maybe the product line is not the right product line for them. Perhaps they thought it was going to work for them, and you will see that obviously over a period of time. So it's helping you to make those business decisions around what stock is least, is sent on to your customers, and in terms of what they promised they would order versus what was actually invoiced then becomes very, very clear. And as I've said, we will have a third entity onto that, a second entity, I really should say, onto that, which is budget revenue. We'll have that over the coming months, which will be another option here where you'll be able to define the revenue forecast against the customer. So not just based on the actual quantity, but it'll be a revenue amount that you'll be able to forecast as well, and bring it into the forecast report to see both one versus the other. So I think that's a super value add for any of the businesses and any organizations out there with regards to order planning, and certainly inventory replenishment and inventory selling. So take a look, maybe try it out if you have a test company already, just to see if this is something that's going to work for your organization going forward. So last but not least is what we've talked about there for our accounting teams, which is the aged reports in multi-currency. So let me just look at, in isolation, just the aged receivables, for example. This is a nice simple one to review. So currently I'm just looking at the aged report as you're used to seeing it today. So we simply have a list of all the customers, regardless of currency, and I can see that everything is currently in euro. So all I see is that everything reported here on the right-hand side of the screen is in the local currency. And my total aged receivables is also in the local currency. What I have done though is I've brought in this particular column. It's called company currency. If you can't see that right now, make sure that you bring that in using the elliptical menu here. Click on column chooser, drag and drop it onto your aged receivables grid. So what this then enables you to do, if I now switch this option here, which is business partner currency, and if I switch that on, we get a different outcome. So what we get now is when we look down the right-hand side of the balance, for example, if I take here on line number 16, you can see here a GBP customer. If I look across there, I can now see the GBP amounts. So to make that even better, again, from a financial perspective, again, just to make better decisions on credit control, use the company currency, switch up the column. So I will now isolate that and just look at the GBP customers. So I'm going to click on OK. And what I now get, in addition to just the GBP customers, I also get a total aged debt in GBP. So I can see my overall aged debt. I can see that overall figure, and that's overall for all your customers within this particular entity or organization. But now I can also isolate the value just at a particular currency for those particular customers. So already it's a powerful change up to give you more financial information to make more informed decisions, particularly when invoices are overdue. And there could be foreign exchange issues, for example, given the age of some of the transactions, and that you are aware of what those impacts could be well in advance. So very simply, switch here to business partner currency, switch it on, and also isolate down the currencies so that you can see the total in the different currencies. And of course, if I select all currencies, that figure disappears because it's not clever enough to give different figures all together, at all at once. So just isolate the currency that you require. So for example, US dollar here, or simply, we could show the GBP in US dollar, but you'll see there that the total will not appear at the screen, but you will still get the currencies, the individual currencies listed as well. So again, another huge value add to the system this month. And the same, of course, applies to our aged payables. So that's it for this month for Horatio. Lots and lots of different wonderful features that will make a huge impact, I think, to any business and any organization. Do check them out. Don't forget to refer to our blog, which is on enterpryze.com. Click on resources and click on blog posts to see what Horatio can also deliver, which is some of the other features that I mentioned on the presentation. And of course, as I said, you can avail of this recording from tomorrow on. So that's it for another month, and hopefully we get to see you again on the next release. And of course, as always, we look forward to seeing all those roadmap requests as they come through. And if you have any questions, reach out to support or reach out to your account manager and ask the questions, and we will certainly do our best to move you forward and help you out and give you the information you need today. As always, thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you on the next webinar. Thanks and take care.